Surrendering to God sounds peaceful until you actually have to do it. People talk about surrender like it's easy, but when life presses on the exact place you're still trying to control, surrender doesn't feel peaceful at all. It feels terrifying. And this is why so many people say they trust God, but still live as if everything depends on their own fear. Not because they're fake, not because they're weak, and not because they don't have enough faith, but because surrender touches the deepest survival instinct inside the human being. It asks the ego to release the throne, and the ego doesn't step down quietly. If surrender feels frightening to you, there is probably a reason. Maybe you've been disappointed before. Maybe you prayed and still lost something. Maybe you were taught that God was watching you and judging you, waiting for you to fail. So now when someone says just surrender to God, something inside of you doesn't relax. It tightens. Because part of you hears surrender as abandonment. Part of you hears it as helplessness. And part of you hears surrender as giving up your voice. And let's be honest, a lot of religious conditioning has made this worse. Many people were not taught surrender as intimacy with the divine. They were taught surrender as submission to fear. They were taught to obey before they were taught to recognize. They were taught to silence themselves before they were taught to listen inwardly. So of course, surrender feels terrifying. Because the mind does not know the difference between surrendering to God and surrendering to the wounds that used God's name. That distinction matters. True surrender is not self-erasure. True surrender is not becoming passive. True surrender is not letting life crush you while you pretend it's holy. True surrender is the release of the false self's obsession with control, so something deeper, truer, and more alive can move through you. The mind tries to turn God into an object, something to understand, something to predict, something to negotiate with, something to keep happy so life doesn't fall apart. And when God becomes an object in the mind, surrender becomes a transaction. If I let go, what will I get in return? If I trust, will I be protected from pain? If I stop controlling, will God reward me? But that's not surrender. That's bargaining. That's still control wearing spiritual clothing. The mind wants surrender to come with a contract. It wants guarantees. It wants God to explain the entire path before it takes the first step. But real surrender doesn't work that way. Because real surrender is not the mind getting certainty. It is the heart returning to trust before certainty appears. That's why it feels terrifying. You are being invited beyond the place where thought can protect you. You are being invited beyond the illusion that you can manage every outcome. The mind calls this unsafe. But sometimes, what the mind calls unsafe is actually the soul leaving captivity. Surrender feels like losing control. But what you are actually losing is the illusion that you ever had control in the first place. You can influence your choices. You can take action. You can speak truth. You can build, create, and respond. But you do not control the entire field of life. You don't control how others feel. You don't control timing. You don't control death or change. You don't control every door that opens or closes. And you don't control the hidden movement of grace. deep down, part of you already knows this. That's why control is so exhausting. You're trying to hold together something too vast for the personal mind to carry. Surrender is not the collapse of responsibility. It is the collapse of the fantasy that responsibility means controlling everything. Even Moses at the burning bush was not given a full map. He was given a call. He was given presence. He was given enough light for the next step. That's often how God moves. Not as a full explanation, as a living summons, as a quiet knowing, as the fire that burns without consuming. What the Gnostics called the monad points toward the undivided source behind all appearances. Not another God, not a separate being competing with God, but a way of describing the one beyond fragmentation. The one before the mind divides reality into fear and safety, success and failure, self and other. From the level of the ego, surrender feels like death, because the ego is built from separation. It survives through grasping. It thinks, I am this separate self, and I must manage reality to survive. But from the deeper level of the monad, surrender isn't death. It's return. It is the wave remembering the ocean. It's the false center softening back into the living whole. This is why surrender can feel both terrifying and holy. Something false is being asked to loosen. Something real is being allowed to breathe. And the mind can't tell the difference at first. It thinks it's disappearing. But what is disappearing is not your true being. It is the contraction around your true being. It is the clenched identity that believed it had to carry existence alone. Let's cut through the illusion directly. You're not surrendering because you're weak. You're surrendering because the false structure is too heavy to keep carrying. You're not surrendering because you don't care. You're surrendering because obsession is not devotion. You're not surrendering because you have no power. You're surrendering because your real power does not come from fear. There is a massive difference between inspired action and fear-based control. Inspired action feels clear, even when it's difficult. Fear-based control feels frantic, even when it looks productive. Inspired action comes from alignment. Fear-based control comes from panic. Inspired action listens. Fear-based control forces. And many people spend their entire lives calling fear responsibility. They say things like, I'm just being careful. But underneath it, they're terrified. Terrified of being unsupported. Terrified of being unseen. Terrified that if they stop gripping life, everything will fall apart. But what if some things are falling apart because they were never aligned with your soul in the first place? What if surrender is not God taking your life away? What if surrender is God removing what your fear kept defending? Surrender doesn't always look dramatic in your life. Sometimes surrender is not sending the message. Sometimes surrender is letting someone misunderstand you without chasing them for validation. Sometimes surrender is admitting, I don't know what happens next, but I won't betray myself to force an outcome. Sometimes surrender is praying honestly instead of performing spiritual confidence. Sometimes surrender is saying, God, I'm scared. I don't know how to trust this, but I'm willing to loosen my grip. That's real. That's grounded. That's where surrender begins. Not with pretending you have no fear, but with bringing the fear into the presence of God instead of letting it run your life from the shadows. You don't have to surrender your whole life in one grand gesture. Start with the next clenched place, the next obsession, the next outcome you keep replaying, the next fear you keep feeding, the next place where your body tightens because life is not moving according to your plan. Pause there. Breathe. Ask yourself, am I being guided to act? Or am I trying to control because I'm afraid? That one question can change everything. Because surrender is not inaction. Surrender is action without inner violence. It is trust with open eyes. It is movement without worshiping the outcome. It is doing your part while releasing the delusion that your part is the whole universe. So if surrendering to God feels terrifying, don't shame yourself for that. Look deeper. The fear is showing you where control became your refuge. It is showing you where your fear dressed itself as protection. It is showing you where the old images of God still live inside your nervous system. And it is showing you where the false self is afraid to dissolve into something greater. God isn't asking you to disappear. God isn't asking you to become powerless. God isn't asking you to stop living. God is asking you to stop mistaking fear for guidance. To stop mistaking control for safety. To stop mistaking mental certainty for faith. Because the peace you are looking for is not found by forcing life to obey your mind. It is found when the mind bows to the deeper reality it could never contain. The monad. The one true living God. The God beyond thought. Whatever name you use is not reached through control. It is recognized when control finally softens. And maybe that is why surrender feels so terrifying. Because something in you already knows. The moment you truly let go, you won't be able to keep pretending you are separate from the very presence you have been seeking. If this journey spoke to you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who is learning how to trust what the mind cannot control. Comment below. What is one thing you are being asked to surrender right now? I read every comment. If you would like to support my work directly, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/magnumopus333. Or you can explore some original merchandise at my Teespring store online. The link is in the description below. Remember, your consciousness is the key that unlocks reality. Let's keep unlocking it. Together. Thank you for watching. Until next time.